eyes is very important to a portrait. Okay, and I'm just going to kind of get the outline. Maybe I'll paint in a little bit more of the eyebrow, but just kind of like the outline, just to kind of establish what that is. Okay, now that I have that kind of established, I'm going to set up the other eye too. And I'm going to go over there. I'm going to make sure I like to make sure that my paint is just the right consistency for this brush and for the line that I'm making. Sometimes I start out with this upper curve of the upper eyelid. And then, of course, the first thing I want to do is get the contour of the iris. I want to make sure I nail that because I don't want to go too big. I want to get exactly the size of her iris, and not a dime bigger and not a dime smaller. Okay, and next what I'm going to do is go in for the pupil. And what I'm going to do is I'm not going to paint the specular highlights in her eye. I'm going to skip around that. I'm going to leave that white, the white of the canvas for now. And I'm going to paint everywhere in her eye that's very dark. Okay. And then once I establish that, I almost don't like to paint the lower eyelid because the lower eyelid is, even the women when they put the mascara on their eyes, they don't put as much on the lower, mostly. I mean, some of them do. They don't put as much mascara on the bottom because it's really not as much tone on the lower eyelid, unless it's a man, you know, like my eyes, you know. Okay, and now what I'm going to do is go for the next darkest tone that's on the face, on her face, which is the eyebrow. And I like to go in the direction, I like to paint in the direction of the hair and where the hair goes. In this case, on this side I go that way, and then on this side I go this way with my brush strokes. I just want to establish where these eyebrows are. That's essentially what I want to do, just establish where they are in space. And it's hard because they're floating out there. This is a full frontal shot of her where she's looking directly at, it's not a 3/4 shot. So I don't have any references. But I am going to start getting some of the shadows around her cheek because that's kind of dark. Okay, and so now that I have that in, there's a bit of a crease above the eyebrow, and a lot of times right here on this side, on some people's eyelids, on hers, which is more typical. It's a pretty eyelid actually. It's kind of dark in there. So I have a little bit of, I still have some dark tone, but what I'm going to do is start going to a black with some brown in it, and basically it's raw umber and burnt sienna mixed with a little alizarin. Because at this point, I don't want to paint black at this point. Right now, I want to paint very dark brown. I want to paint very dark brown, but not black at this point because there is no more black in this. other than the hair and the eyeballs and the iris. Even down here where the nostril is, it's not black. It's just a little, and that's the darkest it is right there. And I'm just going to insinuate that in. Now, even in the crease of her mouth, it is not black. It's not a black line. So what I'm going to do is just add some more burnt sienna to my poulet, to my politimos. I don't know if they say that in Italian or not, but I'm going to just add that and make it up. Say it's Italian. I mean, that's my version of Italian, you know? Maybe I'm blending like some Spanish with some Italian, with some Steve, you know? But yeah, I'm going to do what I'm going to do, you know? Okay, so I'm going to get some burnt umber, and I'm going to mix raw umber, and I'm going to mix it with burnt sienna with a little bit of alizarin in it. And I'm going to establish the creases of the mouth. The mouth is not quite as important, but since her little pinky finger is kind of connected to the mouth right here with a shadow going there, that's going to get me like a reference point. And that's going to give me a reference point to the whole rest of this, the features that's in this portrait. And I just want to be very, very delicate, establishing the lips here, the crease in the lips that goes into the mouth. I'm going to be very, very careful. Okay. Okay, there we go. So now I have that. So now that I have that in, I'm going to go up to this brown. This is a little bit of raw umber and burnt sienna. And I'm going to start establishing features underneath around the eyes and the bottom eyelid. And then some more of the top eyelid. Just the way the line goes, because, you know, we go where everything goes in conjunction with the other. We'll go over to the other side because I'm going to develop these eyes as a pair. I'm not going to develop the eyes as one eye, then go over to the other. That's kind of painting left to right again, and I like to see the picture. I like to see the picture come forward. Okay, so now we're starting to get at least that much of the features come in, and right into the bridge of the nose we go. Okay, and I'm going to go a little bit more into some darker tones in this crease. Just a little bit. Okay, so now that I have that established, that's nice. And I feel like that's really nice. I have where the end of the lip is. Now there is a shadow here. Now that I have this line established, there is a dark brown shadow here. Not that dark, but it's kind of underneath the lip. So I can start to add some three-dimensionality to the lips here. We already have some three-dimensionality in the cheek. And then there's going to be some three-dimensionality just added there, just to kind of get some of the features started to get locked in. We just want to start locking in her exact lip quality. Everybody, just like everybody has a different fingerprint, everybody has a different lip. And even though we say, oh, I got full lips, everybody's lips is different. Everybody's eyes are very similar, but everybody's eyes are also different. I mean, just as sure, unless you have a twin, even if you're a twin, you still going to be, they're going to look different. They're going to represent different. Okay, now what I'm going to do is try to establish I'm going to just use the creases in the lips here to establish the length of the upper lip. I just want to know, like what Bob, it's a guy Bob Ross who used to do the landscape paintings. Where does this shape live? Where is that shape? Because there's a little bit of that going on. So now I'm going to move on to a burnt sienna. I'm going to mix this burnt sienna, yellow ochre, I'm sorry, with this little burnt sienna mixture that I have, and get kind of like a dark tan color working. I'm going to use this dark tone to establish the lines, other lines like in the nose and so forth. Because now that I have the reference of where the nose is I'm going to establish a little bit of references. And I don't want to paint too much of that nose just yet because I haven't even established other darker tones in the painting yet. Okay, so that's pretty good. So now that I have the eyes kind of where they're supposed to go and the lips sort of where it's supposed to go, now what I'm going to do is start toning the geometry of her face, the concavity or convexness of her face. So you do that with some browns. So what I'm going to do is get my nice filbert brush, and I'm going to start just toning in the darker tones around her forehead first, because that's what I see first. And I'm going to get some burnt sienna mixed with a little raw umber, mixed with a little yellow ochre to kind of start out. And I'm starting toward the edges because as it models around, it's going to appear to be darker on the edge. I'm going to go to the opposite side of the temple. And I'm going to just kind of lock in it. Now, I'm not trying to be super detailed at this level because I'm oil painting. And I like to build my stuff up in patinas, but I do want to kind of nail the basic values here. And I might have to add some more paint, and I shall add some more paint to my palette because I don't want to put this paint on wimpy and wispy. I mean, as you paint, you don't know. I mean, when you first start out, you're working with a very liquidy kind of brush, because you want your lines you're painting linear, so you want your lines to flow. But at another point, you start painting a lot more painterly with a lot more thick paint. Because then you're kind of like almost like a cake frosting person. You kind of just laying that pigment in, spreading it across your shapes. So I'm going to get some yellow ochre out, put a lot of that down. I'm going to get some more burnt sienna, throw that down. I'm going to get some more raw umber, throw that in. I already kind of have her skin tone sort of mixed. And I just mix as I go. I don't do all that pre-mixing stuff. I mean, I've been doing it for a while, so I kind of know how it goes. Now, I'm not going to use zinc for the skin tone yet. I'm going to use titanium because this is the foundational colors. So, I'm going to squeeze out some more titanium. Let me squeeze out a little bit more. Don't want to be stingy with it. Okay, so I think I don't need any red or anything yet. I can get some more of that. So, matter of fact, no, I'm not going to be stingy with the red either. sometimes I just like to dip in that red, man. It just makes me feel good when I see it on my palette, whether I need it or not. So I don't want that to look stingy either. I like my yellows the same way, especially when I'm on skin tones. I like to see reds and yellows, and I got some cadmium orange here. Well, especially with African American skin tones as well. You know, I like my cadmium yellow medium. I like my cadmium yellow light. I think I might even throw some zinc on here too, just in case. Okay, and I'm gonna throw a little zinc white on here as soon as I can find it. Where is it? Oh, here it is. Now, also, if you happen to put too much paint on your palette, all you have to do is just, I have a little small palette that fits in my refrigerator, and I kind of cover that. I scrape my paint off this palette and put a cellophane on it and put it in my refrigerator. And that kind of, since oil paint doesn't dry by evaporation, it dries by oxidization and temperature. So by keeping the temperature cool and using the cellophane to keep the oxygen limited, it preserves your paint for a couple of days before it starts to be unworkable. Okay, so should I get a bigger deal here? I think I'm gonna go get. Sometimes you know you don't want too many brushes, but then you don't want too little either. You gotta just have. You should have the right brushes, and I could go down to the situation where you don't want to be. You don't want to be lazy with your brush cleaning. I mean, so you just gotta clean brushes at the end of the day. If you got a lot of them, you just got a lot of them bad boys. I got another number 6 somewhere and I can't find it. Where's my number 6? Oh, here it is. Here it is. Sitting right here looking at me. Okay, so I got a dark tone on both of those, my number 8 and my number 6. So just got to get my brushes organized a little bit better. So I'm going to clean this one out with a dark tone on it. This is going to be my lighter tone. My number 6 is going to be my lighter tone. My number 8 is going to be my darker tone. So now I'm going to go into the lighter tone. This brush is too dirty. Where's my rags at? Oh, here we go. Okay, there we are. And I'm just doing some little quick mixes of my flesh tones. And where's my, oh, there we go. There my flesh tones. And then we're going to start getting down with the get down. And then I'm going to get established. It's going to be a yellow ochre mixed with a little titanium white and a little bit of lemon yellow. And this is not exactly the highlights. What this color is kind of the color just before you get to the highlights. And there we go. We finally got the color locked in. And sometimes I like to mix a little bit on the actual canvas. And I'm just really, again, trying to get this tone blocked off, you know, get this canvas blocked off, cover over this white. And there's a highlight that goes down her nose here. I'm going to go ahead and just, I see that as one of the brighter, other than her whites, not even the white, but there are whites in the eye, the highlight on the lips, and this little highlight on the nose. This is the brighter color, so I'm going to get that with oil paint just so that can get established. Okay, I'm going to build this light tone out. And it's going to go towards this eyebrow. And like I said, I'm not trying to paint super thick at this level. What I'm trying to do is just kind of get the general values. I'm starting the values. I haven't really, I only have 2 values up. This bright, the dark, actually 3, the almost black, and the burnt sienna and raw umber mixture, and now this tone here. And I'm kind of like establishing really what's going to be this lighter kind of highlight tone and what's not going to be that in this painting. And I'm going to use a bigger brush. I'm going to use my number 12 flat Raphael brush. I'll mix up a little bit more tone. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to start getting this tone here, which is a darker tone, moving around, you know, into the areas. I'm going to start with this, and I'm going to just slowly kind of figure out this forehead values. Okay, going back to this one, what I did was just let that paint sit up there just a little bit so it can set up and kind of get used to the paint that's up there, kind of sink in a little smidge. And then I'm going to kind of step from these values that I have. And then we have right here coming off of her eyebrow, we have a tone kind of getting established. I'm going to go ahead and start getting that organized. Now I'm going to put a little bit of, let me get some sap green. Where's my sap green? Now what I do with some of these warmer browns, I hit them with a little sap green to cool them. Sap green is kind of like a translucent kind of color, but it's a way to kind of neutralize this burnt sienna a bit. And again, I'm also learning how this I'm gonna wind up using a lot of brushes again today. I'm learning how this oil ground works, which is a little bit different than my acrylic grounds. It's a wee tad different. Switch up materials, trying to switch up to something superior. I guess was from when I first learned how to paint. You know, in art school, what they do is they show you how to paint with acrylic. They never really show you how to do oil grounds too much. They tell you about it, but they don't recommend it or make you do it. Okay, so I'm going to go with my short brush. These are my Rubens short filbers, and these are great for doing details. And there's a lot of details in these scales. It's a ton. Plenty of details to do. And what I'm using is ultramarine blue. I already have some black in there. I have a little bit of black in this ultramarine blue, and I have some Zaxidone purple and some alizarin. And that's how I'm doing the scales. Those are the colors, main colors I'm using for the snake's coloration. Right now I'm focusing on the tones that are ultramarine blue in the snake scales. And the shadow is coming, the light is kind of coming in this paint. Actually, the light on her photograph is coming straight in. But very rarely do you have in nature, when you're out in nature, you very rarely have any light coming straight into your face. The light either comes from everywhere because it's overcast, or depending on where you are to the sun. There's a lot of little variables up and through there. All right, so kind of got sidetracked off of my snake a little bit. Let me get back on my short brush game here with the snake. And what I'm going to do is just keep this ultramarine blue going into this kind of other check tone along kind of like the bottom side of the snake. And I'm going to focus really in the middle of the body. I'll focus in the middle of the body for now. And towards the bottom of the body. And I'm just all over the place, wherever I feel like I need to be, really, with this. I'm able to cover quite a bit of territory with this brush here, so I'm somewhat happy about that. I'm always happy when I get a lot of mileage out of one particular brush or the other. I don't have to keep changing, but well, I don't mind doing it. You know, whatever it takes to make the painting. That's when I'm usually that's what makes me happy, you know, just as long as the painting develops correctly. There is some sky underneath there, but I'll paint over that once that dries. I think I kind of missed that. And this scale pattern is going to continue throughout the snake's body. And it's going to kind of be, I'm going to paint it different as the light hits the scales in different ways. Now I could have just easily put an undercoat down and then painted something else in, and et cetera, but I decided to take this way of doing it over top of other ways. Now that's one thing, with the slower drying time, sometimes you do have to paint an undercoat, then paint subsequent. One over the next, over the next, over the next. But I heard a little bing, so what does that mean? Does that mean that somebody's waving there? Okay, let's see what's going on. What's going on in my room here? Okay, how's it going? Shannon Miles waving back at you. I'm going to hit the little bring on the camera just in case you want to come on the camera. I'm going to just do that. If you want to come on and be in my studio, that's cool. If not, I understand. Because I kind of have a vision of just painting, these scales sculpturally with the paint, individually. Just get in there and just lock and load on some sculptural effect here. And it seems to be working out. Seems to be, anyway. So far, I'm working in the darker areas of the snake. Of course, this is still undercoat, so nothing's really final. Also, about working with this Viridian green. Viridian green is it's kind of translucent. So it does give me the ability to kind of model it as I put it on. So it lends itself to the snake scale, the gloss of the scale. And as I start layering my colors, that might be a pretty good thing. I'm going to hope it should be a good thing. I'm mixing a little bit of emerald green in with it, especially as I get to the dorsal part of the snake here, where it kind of lightens up naturally, but he's really not showing his dorsal side. See, just a little combination of emerald green and viridian green to work this tone. Because the emerald green helps it to be a little bit opaque when it needs to be. And the viridian green helps it to be just a little bit more translucent, to get the look of translucency when it needs more of that. And already I have some like Doxodon purple and alizarin. What I'm doing is just working some of that tone, the green, and some of that tone too. And I think the alizarin is the viridian green is working a little bit better in terms of making, well, actually the combination. Combination is not too bad, not too shabby. Okay. And then what happens is as this thing goes to viridian on the side, the scale kind of looks more viridian, but there is some like cobalt blue. There's some cobalt blue in there too. And then, of course, that quickly goes from that tone to almost like a lime green. And that's with I'm going to put a little bit of yellow in the permanent, in the emerald green. And I'm going to put a whole lot of teal in there too. And I think it's going to be yellow and teal. And then it's going to go to cobalt. Wow, he's got a lot of little colors in him. Little intricate little, when you look close, you see all these little colors in him. He has a ton of colors. But I still want to just basically get him blocked in. Because he's meandering all over the place, this dude. These guys really kind of coil unto themselves quite a bit. Because he's on his tree rather interwoven with itself. And I guess that's how it holds on, you know, because it's just one long tube essentially. It has to kind of be hooking, and that's how it grabs. It actually is a hook action using its body. Now I'm going to go to some ultramarine on the absolute bottom, emphasize some of these shadow areas. And then reinforce some scales with that. Reinforce some scale shapes. By painting it this way, I get just a little bit more of a sculptural effect. out of the scales. Because I can literally cut in with the dark tones, and I can build up and out with the light tones. Which is kind of nice. And like I said, that's, I don't want to lose my brushes here, because I'm going to paint quite a bit with these. And I need one that's loaded up another way. No, I don't want that one. Don't want that now. I'll use this one. I don't know. I got this one already. This one's kind of... Okay. This will work. And some cobalt blue. Man, that's a lot of tones. A lot of colors. Very colorful. What they do is they sit in juxtaposition. It makes it look like a certain tone. I guess that's part of the camouflage capability of this reptile. Okay. Very good. Okay. Now let me just see if I can take some of these darks and define this, how this body is going over this limb. Okay. There we go. Let's build that in just a little bit more. Okay, there. That kind of separates him a little bit on that. Let me separate the front of him on this branch some. Okay, so he's kind of separated on a branch as well. Boom. Now we're going to go into the darks into the face of the snake. I already painted some lights earlier. And so now I'm just going to go in with the darker tones. Again, it has scales everywhere, so you're constantly painting little lines, you know. And in this case, I don't want to block it because I would lose some of that. And I kind of, this way is working. And as I add stuff, it is blocked now. So now I would just add paint into this after this dries. Well, this part isn't blocked, but I'm actually blocking this now, so it's all working. Then when you see its eye, it's so, the snake's features are so subtle. I think I'm a accentuate here so we can see it, since this is a painting, a little bit more than what it is in reality in my reference picture. And I believe this particular snake is a poisonous snake. because of the shape of the diamond, shape of the head. It just had the look that I liked, so that's why I selected it. I don't have like the tongue slithering out or nothing, but I just may add that. My reference picture didn't have it, but I just thought of it just a minute ago. Just thought of that. That might add a little bit of a snaky kind of a little bit more creep to it. But I don't know if she wants all that, so. So I might have to be cool with it a little bit, you know, keep it on a classy tip. You know, I don't know if it's gonna make it. I don't want to make it cheesy. I mean, she might want to put it in her living room. I mean, I do want this to go on the main wall, you know. So I don't want to mess up my own paint. So I'm gonna be cool and I'm not gonna drool. As we used to say back in the old days. Be cool and don't drool, Bubba. Okay, there is some shadow. This is not even dry. It's black. I don't even want to paint over that with no light color, so I'm going to have to wait. I'm going to have to wait. I'm going to have to be patient. At this point, what I need to do is just kind of touch up my day. And that's just by just touching up the painting and just finishing off the day, because got a good little piece of work done today. Got a good little piece of work done on this. And I got some good paint on the canvas. And I'm finally painting paint on paint. So there is a smidge of modeling that I need to do, but that I would like to do, and so I shall do that. I'm going to get one of my softer brushes. It's good for modeling. Get a little bit of Viridian, alizarin crimson, a little bit of raw umber. I'm just going to kind of change some of the modeling just a little bit. Not change it, but just modeling it. I probably should, as a matter of fact, I am. So I can paint in this good, I'm going to just open this up a little bit. I usually don't paint with these grips. Sometimes when I think the paint's going to slide off, I have this little lip here, kind of, but really I'd like to be able to paint the whole edge. So I just kind of choke the canvas down. there so that I can actually paint all the way to the bottom. Okay, so now that I have that done, I can paint all the way to the bottom, and that's what I shall do. Okay. I'm so close up to everything. The only way I can get back from this, I have to sit on my couch. And maybe I think in the future I might move this up just a little bit so I can kind of, at this point I do like to stand away from the painting somewhat. Kind of see how it grabs me from a distance. That starts to get to be important after a while. Okay. I kind of know which, if I got to get some more brushes, which ones to get. Certain brushes just really showing themselves to be some really nice brushes. I tend to like them a lot, the way they paint. Okay, there's mine. There you go. Oh, I think I have an ear missing. Don't want that, do we? Let me go pop that in real quick. I think we go right here. And then there's something else on this earring here. It's a piece of earring. Okay. Okay, there we go. And that's back in. Clean this up a little bit. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Okay.